What's going on, coin traders? Thanks for joining me. We are looking at ICP Internet Computer, ICP on that ticker. A lot of nice upside gains, and especially after we've seen a lot of these wicks showing a lot of big bearish attempts to push prices to the downside. We've just been having a lot of bullish pressure now, seeing upside gains, and especially after the most recent candle that closed yesterday was extremely bullish, since it did top not only a price level on top of $6, but also a very big point of closing resistance at about 580. And so you can see that we even had a long lower shadow. So that was just completely bought up. And then we saw bulls pushing prices higher, topping out at a high yesterday of 618.5. So now we're looking at a little bit of a hammer and actually seeing whether or not we can get a little bit more of that follow through on the daily close for tomorrow. Now we do have the FOMC meeting upcoming this week. And so there are a lot of optimistic, bullish predictions about what's going to end up being the case. So a lot of people think that the interest rates are going to be slowing down, which should only help push these coins higher, but we will ultimately end up seeing, because we do know that even on the daily for a lot of these coins, we're looking very overbought and overextended, and we are going to be due here before too long. But obviously with a good bullish news catalyst, we're just going to see prices getting pushed a lot higher. Probably one more leg to the upside is what I'm expecting, before a little bit more of that retracement and pullback. Now, so one thing's extremely apparent about this nice upside gain that we've had since the start of the year, and that's that we have been running on a very nice upside trend line for ICP. And as you can see, it's actually riding on top of this 12-period EMA, which has been distancing itself from both the 26 and 50. And so typically we find this type of setup where we do have distancing between all of the exponential moving average and kind of a widening gap, when we do have a little bit more of those parabolic and huge moves. So we could be expecting another big upside pump before ultimately being able to find a little bit of a pullback and retracement and establish some of those lower supports. So do want to flip over into the weekly though and talk about this chart on a weekly time frame first, because as you can see, we're pretty much approaching this 26-period exponential moving average. And if I draw a horizontal price line at that point, you can see that we're pretty much, so 26 right now is at 626.4. And so if we do look left, and let's actually zoom in on this chart a little bit more as well, then you can see looking left, big point of resistance, big point of support before flipping it into resistance. We also had it as support, and then we also had it as resistance. Then looking left the final time, we had it as a big point of resistance. So we know that 620, about 625-ish or so, is going to be an extremely big level. So that's why we are starting to see a lot of prices right now getting stuck up at this current level. So if we can see a break and a close on top of 626, or effectively right around the 6.25 mark, that's going to be an extremely strong signal for the bulls for longer upside growth. Now, keep in mind, that's not to say we're just going to keep going to the upside, because especially after 6 weeks of bullish upside, we are still going to be needing to find a downward support. And so one of the things for that first we can look at is going to be the 12-period exponential moving average here. And we can actually draw a very nice price line at that level as well, because that does come in almost right at the $5 psychological mark. So looking left, big point of support previously, as well as another big point of support here. So expectations would be very nice at that level. And the benefit too is that we would actually see prices on the weekly time frame getting stuck up in between this channel between the 12 and 26 period exponential moving averages. So this would be a pretty good sign to see a slight pullback kicking off this level, and then seeing another bullish follow through to the upside and actually having prices gain to about the $7.50 to $8 level, before then retracing and testing and back testing these exponential moving averages then as support to the upside. So that's going to be our extremely bullish scenario though. And right now, since the trend on the shorter time frames has been favoring bullish upside, we think that that's a little bit more likely. But obviously we need to be prepared for any type of situation. And that's why we do look what potential downside targets would be in order to still maintain that very nice longer term bullish trend. So by knowing what we can expect for a downside pullback to still maintain us in a bullish time frame, that's what helps alleviate a lot of those anxiety fears and puts people into those panic. Because if you know what can still lead to a potential longer term bullish upside, as well as what actually invalidates the trend and would lead to potential lower downside, that's why having a plan and knowing how you're going to handle each scenario is so critical and important. Now, did want to actually pull up some technicals for this, specifically want to look at the stochastic RSI, which is kind of like the MACD, except for the stochastic oscillator in terms of the strength. So right now, both indicators are actually smashed up right at the 100 line. So we are going to see a flat line until we actually get a little bit more of that pullback in order to get that bearish cross and reversal, because ultimately we will see this level pull back. Now, this is the first time we've seen this for ICP on the weekly, so we don't really have any good projections. But as we can see, the previous times that we have had bearish crosses on the stochastic RSI has led to more downside. And so especially now that we have seen week over week a decrease over the last 3 weeks for ICP. Now, we do have 24 hours left on the current day, so it's not confirmed just yet. But the expectation is still that we are going to see a little bit of a taper off. So we have been getting a little bit of selling exhaustion in terms of volume. And so especially now that we are looking at some fairly strong resistance points up overhead, that does mean needing to be mindful that a potential consolidation and a retracement are still going to be extremely likely and needed for healthy longer-term growth. Flipping over to the 1 hour right now, just to look at some of the shorter time frame type stuff, you can see a very nice uptrend playing out. So we do know that path of least resistance is to the upside right now. And until we actually break some of these lower lows, we are still maintaining that hourly uptrend, which means we can't see a top out just yet on the longer time frames until we actually do shift and break this time frame. And then at that point, that's when we will actually look out to about the 4 hour chart, for example, and start to look at changing that time frame as well. And so even on this 4 hour time frame chart, we're looking at maintaining support on top of the 50 period exponential moving average. So until we actually get a bearish break, change, reversal on the 1 hour, and a close below the 50 period on this 4 hour chart, we're still not looking at exhaustion and a top being in just yet for Internet Computer. So like a lot of the rest of the cryptos, I think that with such extreme gains since the start of the year, so starting January, we're looking at 47% gains, and even from this year's local lows, we're looking at 61%. So still going to be due for a consolidation period on the longer time frames. And especially as we do wait for the FOMC announcement here this upcoming week, it would not be a bad thing to see a little bit of consolidation in this range over a couple of days, allow these exponential moving averages to catch up. And then barring some good news from FOMC and the rest of the crypto space takes off, I would expect a lot more upside from ICP as well, which probably would be the last leg to the upside I would anticipate before a little bit more of a longer term and significant pullback and retracement on some of the longer term charts. But yeah, those are just my expectations for this upcoming week for Internet Computer ICP on that ticker. Definitely let me know your thoughts and all of that stuff down below in the comment sections. Do love getting back to each and every one of you. If you did enjoy the show today, please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe button if you haven't done so just yet. Greatly helps me out. And also lets me know you're enjoying all of this type of content. Do appreciate all the continued love and support. As always, it does mean so much. Stay safe, take care, everyone, and I'll catch you back in the next video.